Thank you for joining another Blue Dog e-learning photography experience. In this session, we're going to be talking all about white balance. I'm your presenter, Danielle Lancaster. So join me on an experience where we learn all about white balance. It was once called a color cast, and it was when we shot with our cameras and a different color came through to what we actually saw by our human eye. And there is a reason for this. It's because light has color, and our eye can't actually see the color of light. We have different things that go on between our codes and our rods inside our eye that actually doesn't let us see the true color of light. However, our cameras don't have that. So when we're talking about the color of light, we often refer to it as Kelvin, and that was the physicist who developed all of the information that we're about to talk about with the color of light. Light has many different quantities, qualities, and one of those is that it has color, and we refer to that as the color temperature. Look, there are all different numbers, and photography is full of physics and maths, of which I like neither. So we're going to keep this really, really simple and learn how and why you develop white balance into your imagery. I want you to look at this red circle for a certain amount of time. You can blink while you're looking at it. It's just over a minute, but it is important you stay looking at it. The darker the coloured room you are when you're looking at it is best. But, you know, you should still be able to get the drift. Once you've looked at it for a certain amount of time, we'll be changing the slide to a completely white slide. I want to see what you think that you can see. So are you ready? Remember, you can blink, but you cannot take your eye away from the red circle. So let's go. We're almost halfway there. A minute can seem such a long, long time. Stay looking at it. Remember, you can blink. Just stay looking at that red circle. Okay, what did you see? Who saw like a cyanish coloured faded circle in there? If you did, then that's exactly what we needed you to see. What we showed you was a red circle. What the eye does, or what the human brain does, is it pumps in the opposite of red, which is cyan, to try and make you see white light. If we had shown you a green circle, you would have seen a magenta, vice versa, yellow, blue, vice versa, etc. So whatever our human eye sees, our brain pumps in the opposite colour, trying to make you see white. All cameras have a variety of white balances on them. Even your smartphones have some accessibility. So no matter what camera you have, from the most basic point and shoot to the most elaborate DSLR, you will have some of these basic settings. So those are the little icons that you will find, and we're going to discuss some of those now. First of all, we'll talk about auto. So if you've been on auto white balance or auto mode, auto, by the way, is something that we call a dirty four-letter word. Your camera makes a guess. So it tries to give you the very best that it can give you. But quite often you'll look at your image and go, wow, that just doesn't look as vibrant as what I was looking at. It doesn't look as great. Then there's incandescent, or in some cameras it's also called tungsten. Now, incandescent light is a yellow light. So in this white balance, the camera throws in the opposite of yellow, which is blue. And the blue color cast goes through everything. Can you see the blue even in the leaves? It's very obvious in the flower, but it is through the whole image. White balance, covers your whole image, not just parts of it. This is where I used it in a shoot that we did on a Fraser Island photography tour, and I really wanted to enhance the blues that were already in the ocean that afternoon, and the incandescent white balance gave me that. It was closer to what I was seeing and to what the camera could actually capture. This is a portrait where I've used it, and you can see the blue has gone through the skin and into the eyes, even the whites of the eyes. It makes it look really eerie. In this image, I really wanted to accentuate the grungy feeling of that steel yard, and so incandescent was perfect for the backyard scene. However, what I've done here is I've used a flash off camera. Very simple to do, just set it quickly up off camera. It had a gel over the front of the flash that was aimed over the face of the person in the image. So that way that their face doesn't have a blue tinge. A great thing for location photography. Here I've used it in the rainforest. Late in the day, I've underexposed the image 2 stops and used the incandescent, and it makes it look like that the waterfall was shot at night. Direct sunlight, while I say that I personally rarely use it, I have to say in some of the little point and shoot cameras like the Panasonics, this is a really great little white balance tool. These cameras actually show you a preview of what the white balance will look like, so you can actually have a look before you press the button. Flash is almost identical to cloudy, but of course it adds that red. Now we're going to get on to some of my favorite ones to play with, and cloudy is one of those. It makes things look much, much warmer. It really vamps up those amber tones and is perfect for when you're doing those yellow and orange sunrises and sunsets. In these next 2 images, it's simply been placed on cloudy white balance, same subject, 2 different angles. So just something else to keep in mind for your photography. Shade is another one of my favorites, especially when I'm going to photograph anything with timber in it. Now I'm going to show you these 2 images, and I'm going to go backwards and forwards, but this one is shot on auto white balance. There's no lights on the room, and it's direct flash. The next one is simply shot on shade white balance. I've bounced the flash off the ceiling and diffused it. A simple technique, and look at the difference. I'll go back. Which room would you rather stay in? This image was shot for an album cover for a record label, and my brief was to make the musician and the instrument as one. Because of the yellow of the instrument, I turned it onto this white balance. My lighting is very simple. It's one light from the left-hand side as you're looking at the image, a reflector from the right-hand side, and the model is actually just leaning on a sheet, a black sheet. Be careful with this one with portraiture. It can work really good with really pretty young girls. With somebody like me, maybe I will look like I've got liver cancer, so maybe not the best white balance for a portrait on somebody of my maturity, I like to say. This image is shot by Paul Hewitt, and it's shot in a resort on the Sunshine Coast. And this shows how that we will use this white balance in scenarios where we want to get that emotion of relaxing. The yellow tones make the mind want to relax. So it is a model. It's not one of our partners that we've come to be in the bath. This is actually a setup shoot, and it's just to show you how that we've used the white balance to create that emotion. Creating an emotion in your images brings your viewer into your scene even more. Now, Florescent is a little bit of a awesome white balance effect. Fluorescent light is green, so the opposite of green is magenta. So this is throwing a magenta tone through the whole image. Where this white balance can be absolutely brilliant is when you're doing landscape photography or any photography that has those beautiful pastels in the sky, so those lovely pinks and purples. Now you'll notice that the magenta is also in the sand. However, on this day, the light was that intense that the sand was actually turning purple. But on auto white balance, our camera didn't capture what our eye could see. So we simply went to fluoro. This is up in the Carnarvon Ranges. This is actually shot from the highest building in Osaka in Japan, and it's the city lights. So we've turned it on to fluoro white balance. We've simply handheld the camera, and we've done the shape of a heart upside down. So light travels upside down. If we had drawn a heart normally with our camera, the heart would have come out upside down. So again, another way that you can use your image taking to be very creative with your images. Most DSLR cameras have an added sub-menu for their white balance, and it's called white balance shift bracket. So you'll find this is the Canon menu. You'll find this in your menu. Simply go in, and here you can actually increase the magenta, green, amber, which is yellow, or blue. Please note, you cannot increase magenta and green at the same time. They are on different axes. Oops, sorry. And you cannot introduce amber and blue on the same time, as they are on different axes. What we can do is we can increase magenta and amber, amber and green, green and blue, magenta and blue. So you can do those, and this is a really great way to have a little bit of fun with your photography and really experiment with this extra tool in our kit. So once you've set it, it's really important to remember that after you've finished having your shoot is to go in and set everything back to, your basic settings. So I would be taking everything back to the 0 so that when you'll pick up your camera the next time, it is set back to that. Again, this is just a fabulous way that you can really get out of your camera what you are seeing there in your subject, because our cameras cannot actually get exactly what we see color-wise. So this is another way to add that little bit to your image making. This is an image where it didn't actually go right. I've added a little bit of amber, and I think it makes the clouds go a little bit what we would call grubby or dirty. They're a little bit clogged up. They just don't have the oomph. Even though it was printed, it's still not the very best. And you will learn this and you will do this. And please don't delete off your camera the images that you make mistakes of. Make sure that you bring them home, put them up on your computer, have a really good look at them, and work out what you actually did wrong and how you could improve it for your next image. And it is the best way to move forward, because white balance is just another tool in our kit. Photographers are no different to carpenters, to all sorts of tradespeople. Writers have blue pens and red pens. We have tape recorders, all these different things. Carpenters have a nail gun, a tape measure, a hammer, things that they pull out when they need to use them. This is no different to what we did back in the film days. Back in the film days, we would use filters on the front of our camera, or we would change things in the wet dark room. Today, we have white balance, or we can change things in the digital dark room. These next two images just show you the different levels from 5,600 Kelvin, and to show you the different warmth as that Kelvin moves up, the different warmth that comes into your image. So that's 5,600 and that's 7,700. So you can see the difference as you push that Kelvin up, depending on the white balance that you use, the difference that you can make in your image, bringing your image closer to what the human eye sees. Remember, our eye is a funny thing. We don't see the color of light. Our camera does. So thank you for joining us on another Blue Dog e-learning tutorial. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Please check out our website, www.blue-dog.com.au. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things, and we would love to see you join us for more online tutorials soon. Thank you.